now you're just going to add, whoopsies. Uh-oh. Hello, this is Thomas, and today we will be making lemon cream tart. This is a really yummy tart recipe, and the crust that we are making also really complements it well since it's sweet and the tart is sour because it's lemony. So I really like this dessert, and hopefully you will too. To make the crust, first you're going to take a food processor and put in 1.5 cups of flour, and then you're going to add in 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then you're going to put the lid on that food processor, and then you're going to pulse this until it's all combined. Next, you're going to add in 9 tablespoons of chopped up butter. So I've just taken a stick plus an extra tablespoon, and I've chopped it down the middle and then turned it and chopped it down the middle again and then chopped it into little pieces, which in the end are about this big. So then you're just going to sprinkle those all over it, and this should be cold butter. Now you're going to put the lid back on and pulse this around until you have little chunks that are about the size of peas or oatmeal flakes. To take 1 egg yolk, and if you need help separating egg yolks, you can watch my video up here. And you should have broken this one because you're not going to add it all at once, so just stir it around a bit. And now you're just going to add, whoopsies. And now you're just going to add a little bit of this egg yolk at a time. And you're just going to pulse after each little addition to get it all combined. Once the egg is all in, you're going to do longer pulses, about 10 seconds each, until it gets less granular and more big chunks. And the sound of the food processor will change while you're doing this. Once that's all combined and is the right texture, you're going to just take it off of your food processor, and take it out and just dump it out onto the counter. Then you're just going to combine this all, since there are going to be some little clumps that didn't get all combined. I often like to make a little thing in the middle and then just scoop all the little bits into that middle and then scoop it all around that. Now you're going to take a 9-inch tart pan, and it's much easier if this has a removable bottom like this. And you're just going to spray that with some olive oil spray. Now you're going to use most of this dough, but you're going to save a little bit, and you're just going to press it into this pan. To get the edges, I usually like to make a thin little strip and then just push it against the edge like this, but you can do whatever works for you here. You don't want the crust to be too thick, or else it'll take away from the flavor of the filling itself, but you don't want it to be too thin either, then it could burn. While you're doing this, you're going to want to take a knife and just go around the top to make sure that your edges are nice and sharp. And you don't have to start with the edges, you can start with the middle, but I often like to start with the edges. And then for the middle, I just take a big chunk and smush it around so that it gets everywhere. Once you're done pushing your your dough into your tart pan. Then you're going to put this in the freezer for at least 30 minutes. Since this is around lunchtime and I have a few more hours of school before I come back out, then I'm going to be back to do this in a couple hours. So I will see you then. Goodbye. Okay, so I have let this sit in the freezer for about 3.5 hours or so. So now you're going to take it out and you're going to preheat your oven to 375. Already done. Uh-oh. And now you're going to take a piece of aluminum foil that should be about this size. And you're just going to spray that with a little bit of olive oil spray. And you're going to put that face down on your tart and just press it in a bit. Since you already froze this, you don't need to use pie weights when baking it, which is good because pie weights are kind of annoying. And you're now going to put this in the oven for about 33 minutes. And if you want, you can take off this piece of aluminum foil after about 25 of those minutes and just let it bake the rest of the way without anything on top of it. So I will be back when this comes out. When it's time to make your filling, you're going to take a heat-proof bowl and put in 1 cup of sugar. The camera didn't record what I just filmed, but then you're going to add in the zest of 3 lemons and you're just going to use your fingers to smush it all together until the sugar is moist. And it should look something like this. Now you're going to take a little bit of water in a pot and you're going to put your sugar and lemon mixture on top of that. Now you're going to whisk in 4 eggs. And then you're going to whisk in 3/4 cup of lemon juice. Now you're going to turn the stove on to about medium heat and you're just going to stir this a little bit until the mixture feels a little bit warm to your finger. Once it does, you're going to keep stirring this until it reaches 180 degrees Fahrenheit. To figure out what temperature it is, you can either use a candy thermometer, but if you're using a bowl like this, it probably won't fit, or just an instant read thermometer, which is what I'm going to do. This can take a few minutes. You also have to be stirring constantly or else the eggs in here will scramble. Because this process can take up to 10 minutes, I am not going to film it because it's pretty boring, so I will see you when it's done and at 180 degrees. Okay, when your lemon cream is done, you're going to bring it over. Oh, everything's happening at once. You're going to bring it over to your blender and put it through a strainer. Now, of course, everything got timed just perfectly, and my timer for the tart is going off, so I'm going to take that out as well. So this tart shell needs to be completely cooled before you can use it, so I'm just going to let it set there. And now I'm going to use my whisk just to whisk this all through into the blender. Okay, so the bigger chunks you're not going to do anything with, you're just going to get rid of these. Now you're just going to let the cream sit here and you're going to stir it occasionally until it gets down to about 140 degrees, so 40 degrees lower, and this should take about 10 minutes, so I will be back when it's cool. Once your lemon cream has cooled enough, you're going to put this on your blender itself. And now you're going to turn it on a pretty high speed. And while it's going, you're going to add the butter. So you're going to need 2 sticks plus 5 tablespoons of butter. That should be at room temperature and chopped into little cubes like I showed you earlier. And you're going to add about 5 of those little cubes at a time. So it's going to be loud, so I'm not going to narrate anything while this happens. Every once in a while you might need to just scrape down the edges of your blender, and I just dropped this in there. Once all of the butter is added, you're going to keep this going on high for about 3 minutes. And I'm not going to film that since it will just be a blender, but I will be back once that is done. Once your cream is all mixed in, you're going to just pour this into a container. Now you're going to put this in the fridge for at least 4 hours, and I will be back in 4 hours or so to assemble the tart and then eat it. Okay, so it's only been about 2 hours, but I'm going to actually take the cream out of this little jar. I'm just going to stir it around and put it in my tart pan. And I'm doing this because I want the tart shell, to be the same temperature as the rest of the cream when I eat this. So I'm just going to dump this in now. It may be a little chunky now, but it won't be in a bit. Okay, now I'm just going to put this in the fridge for another hour or so. After you've let your tart chill for a few hours, then you're going to take it out of the fridge, and now it is time to eat it. So I'm just going to take it out because of this removable bottom of my tart pan. And now I will cut myself a piece. Okay, so I've only let this sit for about 3.5 hours, and it's still going to taste good, it just won't be quite as set. However, I had a good time to film the video right now, which is why I'm doing it now, but it's still going to taste good. Another thing is that this dessert is really good because you can do a lot with it. You can put fruit on top of it, or you could put whipped cream on it, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is just eat it plain. So that is what I am going to do now. I really like this dessert because it's creamy and the crust is just a little sweet, but then the filling is kind of sweet, creamy, but also sour because of all the lemons that are in it. So basically, I really like this dessert, and hopefully you will too if you decide to make it. And now I am going to finish this piece, maybe have another piece, and then go edit this video. So I will see you next time. Goodbye.